where's the next case coming from?
Or am I even going to get another case?
I was defaulting to a lot of roles that I didn't even realize. So once I realized that it freed up my time a lot to spend it on kind of higher quality, higher impact activity. It was October 2024. I think that at the time we were about, 8 people. So we've almost doubled in size. Steve Jobs has this quote that A players don't want to work with C players. This firm is my life's work. So why would I tolerate anybody who isn't supporting what our values are? I value freedom, and I think that's the whole point of owning a business. The business should work to support your lifestyle.
Hey, it's Mike Morse. Welcome to another episode of the Fireproof podcast. Excited about today's with Andrew Pickett, who's a good friend and Fireproof client out of Melbourne, Florida. True?
That's right.
Tell our audience a little bit about your firm.
So our firm is located on the east coast of Florida. We have 4 attorneys, 16 total staff. We've been around for about 8 years, specialize in personal injury, wrongful death. We do some sex abuse cases and some mass torts.
And you guys are trying cases?
That's right. So I still have a caseload. We try to pride ourselves as being a litigation-heavy firm. I started out as a trial lawyer early in my career, and I've still enjoyed that aspect. But through the coaching, I'm kind of trying to shed off a lot of my cases and delegate more.
Yes, which is a hallmark of Fireproof. We'll get into that. You've recently tried a case?
Yeah, so I had a trial in November in Tampa, Florida, where I got a $9 million verdict on a wrongful death case.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that you're still in the fight. So you've been a Fireproof client for how long now?
About a year and a half. I started in October of 2024.
And you're
2025 it was.
And you're doing coaching?
Yeah, so I'm doing coaching. I'm doing masterminds.
And have you ever done coaching or masterminds before?
Yeah, so I started out in 2020 doing coaching with a group called Atticus, which was kind of a good foundation, but I found that I needed something a little bit more specific. And what I was looking for is trying to be coached by somebody who had actually been in the trenches. I think there are a lot of coaching programs out there with people who are non-lawyers. And so I'm interested in hearing from somebody who's been where I am. And that was kind of what drew me to Fireproof.
And now that you've been here for a year and a half, the fact that you're being coached by people who've actually done it, is it different than being coached by non-lawyers?
It is, because a lot of the things that I think people like you who have done it before appreciate is what are the challenges when you're small, and what are the things that you need to shed as a lawyer and get past some of these kind of mental problems that we impose on ourselves.
It's a good point, because I've been exactly where you were, where you are actually. I've been exactly where you are, and I'm able to help you get to the next level. Have you seen growth since you joined Fireproof?
I have. So when we started, again, it was October 2024. I think that at the time we were about, 8 people. So we've almost doubled in size. We also have expanded our leadership team, and we've been doing a lot of delegation. Particularly I have. So I started out with just myself, and then my firm administrator, who at the time when we started was also having a dual role as a litigation paralegal. So she shed that responsibility, doing full-time firm administration now. And then I have since hired a pre-suit attorney, a marketing coordinator, 2 litigation attorneys, and a bunch of other staff. So it's been quite an expansion, which means that now I'm not doing it all.
And how has that been for you? I mean, letting go of some of the things that you thought you were great at, you probably were, things that you, probably some of these things you thought nobody could do better than Andrew Pickett.
That's right.
How has that been for you?
It's been pretty liberating. It's also been eye-opening and understanding that I was defaulting to a lot of roles that I didn't even realize. When I looked at the pre-suit attorney position in particular, the question was, well, who's doing all the pre-suit supervision and who's approving settlements? And that was me. So I didn't realize that I was the pre-suit attorney. And so the question then became, is that what I want to be? And it certainly wasn't. So once I realized that I was defaulting all these roles that I didn't want, it freed up my time a lot to spend it on kind of higher quality, higher impact activities.
And these are all things that you were learning through your Fireproof coaches?
That's right. So my coach is Kate Knockhazel, and she's been my coach from the very beginning. And she's really pushed us on a lot of different issues. And one of the things that's valuable in having both the weekly and then the quarterly meetings is that these accountability coaches and then our quarterly coaches, they get to see issues that we're talking about constantly. And so I think it helps to have an outside perspective because we can kind of get caught up in kind of our own BS a lot of times. So we've really benefited from having somebody who will challenge us.
So one of the differentiators with Fireproof is that, we kind of took that EOS model that was every quarter meeting to add weekly accountability coaches in your weekly leadership meetings. Has that been a game changer?
It really has. And we have ours actually at 8:30 a.m. every Monday. So it really forces my leadership team to make sure that everything is in line the Friday before. And oftentimes, if they know the meeting's coming up on Monday, that's going to kind of pressure them to get everything in line. So we know that if we're going to have to be reporting on our numbers on our Jumbotron at 8:30 in the morning, they better have all their shit together.
And they don't want to show up embarrassed. They don't want to embarrass you, the firm. They don't want to be embarrassed in front of the accountability coach, which is part of the accountability.
Right, exactly. And we've seen definite behavioral changes with that cadence that we have.
So you're a visionary, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you know that term before you started working with us?
I don't think I knew the term, but in understanding what the term means, I think I knew that about myself.
So every visionary I know, including myself, is obsessed with something. As you heard me talk earlier in one of the sessions, I'm obsessed with intake right now, as well as AI right now, as well as probably a few other things. What are you obsessed with right now?
I think the AI. And in today's session, we're here at the summit. Today's session, we talked about AI for about an hour. And that is really exciting to me, especially when you hear about all of the people in the world and on the news who are kind of doomsdayers about AI. I'm really an AI optimist. And I think that the integration, the opportunities that it can do for us in our law firm is tremendous. And I'm really excited to have my team kind of get behind that excitement.
Let's talk about numbers for a second, because I know you're a big numbers person and you weren't a huge numbers person before Fireproof, but what are one or two numbers that you obsess with every week that you look at that you couldn't imagine not knowing now that you didn't know before?
So one of them that comes to mind is the intake conversion percentage. So looking at what percentage of our wanted leads are actually signing up. I now have my marketing coordinator, who's also overseeing intake, send me a text at the end of each day that says how many new calls we got, how many of them were wanted leads, how many we signed, and what the kind of running conversion percentage is. And that really helps me kind of get a pulse on how we're doing, but it also keeps her accountable as well. Over the past year and a half, we probably have increased our total leads by like 60%. And our revenues have steadily increased year over year. And one of the things that's been really valuable about Fireproof is the projections. And that's been a big thing that's helped with my mindset, because I think that a lot of people, myself included before Fireproof, just had this idea that you couldn't forecast revenue in a personal injury, a contingency firm. So we had Kyle Berquist from your firm do forecasting for both 2025 and 2026. And for 2025, he did that forecast, and I had no confidence in his numbers at all. And I was kind of operating under this mindset that there's no way we could duplicate what we did in 2024. And at the end of 2025, his predictions were correct to 1%. And so that has been super liberating for me.
So talk about the confidence that gives you going into 2026.
So he did the same forecasting that he did in 2025 for 2026. It just gives us so much more confidence on our hiring decisions. And it also helps with, I think what a lot of us as owners have is like just kind of this mentality that, where is the next case coming from? And is
or am I even going to get another case?
Right, exactly.
Right? I mean, I had that fear for many, many years.
And I think that that's been part of what the forecasting has done for me, is to give me a lot more confidence in making sure that we're hiring in anticipation of growth as opposed to hiring when we're bursting at the seams. So I think that having a hiring plan that is informed by our data has really been a game changer for me. And also it's helped me to kind of manage my emotional state so that if we have a particular week where our leads are down, I'm not freaking out because I know that the data is going to bear out just like it did last year.
I love that you guys did that, because I remember when we started talking about projections on the on the stages across America at these conferences, people would look at us like we were full of it. We were personal injury lawyers. We don't know how many cases we're signing up. We don't know how many $9 million verdicts we're going to get. We don't know how many big cases, small cases. And it works, and it works. Mark Anderson, it works. He was within 1% last year. You're within 1%. We were within 1%. So if you're listening to this forecasting model telling you in January what you're going to do at the end of the year works. And it's not just us saying it anymore.
For sure. And one of the things I think that I was worried about at the end of every year is that, well, now I've settled all of my good cases. What's going to happen next year? But I think the reality when you look at the data is that you're going to have a certain percentage of, high 6-figure, 7-figure cases every year that you can reliably count on in your forecasting model.
Tell me what's one of the biggest aha moments you've had, other than what you just told me about projections that you've learned during the Fireproof coaching or mastermind process.
So one of the things that we did when we first started Fireproof, and I think all of the Fireproof clients do this, is spend an entire day developing and really reflecting on the core values. We spent an entire day identifying, I think at the time we might have had, like I said, 7 or 8 employees, and we looked at who our superstars were. And we identified for each of them what qualities they had that made them superstars. And then we looked at, out of those 7 or 8 people, which of those qualities the majority of the people had, so that our core values became not aspirational, but actually descriptive of who we currently were. And so once we really defined those core values, what we started doing after that is we started making hiring and firing and retention decisions based on those. And it was really empowering because as a visionary and a firm owner, this firm is my life's work. So why would I tolerate anybody who isn't supporting what our values are? And when we started making, especially firing decisions based on that, it really, I think, helped our current employees. Steve Jobs has this quote that A players don't want to work with C players. And so once we got rid of some of our C players, it elevated, I think, the morale at our firm because I think that the A players felt more validated.
That's amazing. I mean, you're hiring, firing, training, retaining based upon your core values. That's textbook, exactly what you should be doing. So that makes me really, really happy. We hear all the time people are on the fence about joining a mastermind group, joining coaching. What would you say to those people?
I think a lot of people are on the fence about it because they view it as an expense as opposed to an investment. And I think for me, any conference that I go to with Fireproof or any mastermind or coaching, even if I get one good nugget out of it, it's going to far outweigh whatever the investment's going to be. And it really is an investment in your firm as well as in yourself. And so what I've appreciated, and I know you and I have talked about this privately, is that what you're doing to help your business is also helping you personally. And a lot of times what your shortfalls are in your own personal development also are shortfalls in your business development. And I think that coaching and Fireproof in particular really shine a light on that. And it's been a game changer for me. So I would recommend it for anybody who wants to improve.
And the difference between coaching and masterminds, I mean, how's that combination been for you guys?
It's been really good. So I think that for the coaching aspect, that really forces you to think critically about a lot of the fundamentals, and it helps you develop your goals in a really clear way. And the accountability, like we talked about earlier, is really helpful. I think for the masterminds, the benefit of that is just sharing great ideas from people who are similarly sized than you. So we started out in the smallest mastermind group, and we're actually just graduating to the higher group now. And so we're looking forward to being, instead of near the top of the revenue range, now being at the bottom. So now we're learning from people who are way far ahead of us. So I think we'll have the benefit of both sharing ideas with people who are kind of similar, but also like gathering ideas from people who are far ahead of us. So I think that they complement each other. The benefit of the masterminds primarily is just sharing new ideas, a lot of cutting edge stuff. And I've really benefited from both the mastermind and the coaching.
Not to mention the community aspect, because I know you're in a great group. You all care about each other. You all want to see each other succeed. It makes me really happy. But when you go to the next group, you still have those friends and you have some new friends.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that's cool about conferences in particular and Fireproof as well is a lot of the people that you get to meet actually kind of become your good friends. And I see I probably see you more than I see a lot of people who are in my hometown, just because we're at these conferences all the time. So in addition to the personal and professional development, you're also just making good friendships.
And it's fun coming to these events and seeing your friends, and you don't know who's going to be here. It's like a little homecoming every time I come. And I don't look at the list that closely because I want to be surprised and excited. And for me, it's just a lot of fun while we're learning. We get the question a lot, like, when do we know to add a COO? When do we know to add to a leadership team? Can you walk me through the formula that you use in your firm when you're thinking about adding somebody?
So we're still, I would say, kind of in the early stages of our leadership team. So right now it's just myself, my firm administrator, and our marketing coordinator. And I think that at a minimum for the leadership team, you need to have at least the visionary and the integrator. But for us, the marketing was just such an obvious next choice because of what our goals were. So I think you kind of begin with the short-term, midterm, and long-term goals in mind, and then build backwards from there. And for us, in order for us to meet our midterm and longer-term goals, we knew that we had to focus on marketing. So I think it's just kind of a needs-based assessment based on what your goals are. And I think that the more insight that the visionary has and the need to delegate, I think that kind of makes the decision really easy.
If you were talking to law firm owners your size a year and a half ago before you joined Fireproof, what are one or two things that you would recommend that they focus on right now?
So I think that number one is being really clear on your actual data. I think that especially if you're just starting out or you're in the young phases, it's a lot easier to gather clarity around your data than it is to try to reconstruct it 10 years in. So I think that would be one thing that's really important. The other thing would be to take a really hard look at what is everything that you're doing as the visionary. And when you understand all the hats you're wearing, it makes the delegation decision a lot easier.
And how many total employees do you have now?
We have 16.
And you don't have a COO yet?
Right. We have a firm administrator who may develop into that role. So she's kind of evolving just as I am.
I believe, we did a survey recently, as you know, the number is between 20 and 30, the sweet spot for hiring that COO integrator. So you're not there yet. You got some time. It might be her, it might not be her, but you'll figure that out with Kate and other people's help. But that's an interesting number that we recently kind of discovered in the last year and a half. So tell me, do you have any particular mentors or people you look up to, and why do you think that's important to have them?
I think that for me, I can trace understanding the importance of mentors to my athletic background. So I was a swimmer in college, and I had coaches who, at a very young age, both junior high, high school, college, really saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I think I benefited from having people who would challenge me. So I think I knew, even before I became a lawyer, the value of coaches. And since going on this journey to really improve my business as well as my trial skills, I have sought out mentors and coaches. And I've appreciated you for being a mentor for me, as well as John Knockhazel. So I think that kind of on the business side, you guys have really been really good for me. I've also looked up to a lot of different trial attorneys. Mark Lanier has been a really good mentor for me. Sean Claggett out of Las Vegas. Jerry Spence, I went through the Trial Lawyers College. So all of those people on the trial side, I have a coach who helps with my mindset work, a guy named David Nagel. I have a fitness coach that helps with my nutrition and my workouts. His name is Jeremy Riesenberger. I'll give him a shout out, Home Health. I do a lot of my own personal development. I go to a lot of events. Tony Robbins has been a good mentor for me. So I'm regularly seeking out mentors, and in all different aspects of my life, there's always some way that I can get better. So I think that understanding the value of coaches depends on having the humility to know that you can always be better. And so that's been really important for me, and I've been grateful for the people who have been coaches in my life.
I love that. And I love to be I'm glad to be one of your coaches and mentors, and it's exciting to watch your growth. Because you're a chronic learner like I am, is there a podcast you listen to regularly? Is there any books you highly give out all the time that you like to recommend?
There are so many. But one of the podcasts that I actually just recommended this yesterday, it's called Founders. And if you haven't read it, I think you would really like it. So a guy named David Sinra, all that he does is reads biographies of famous people, and then he summarizes those biographies and then draws parallels between the different ones. So he might do one on John D. Rockefeller, one on Elon Musk, one on Steve Jobs. and he'll tie everything together. It's really, really good. So that would be the podcast I would recommend. So many good books. I mean, one of the foundational ones is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But I have a whole list of books.
One thing you and I have talked about in the past is that we're doing this for freedom. We're doing this to gain more freedom, to enjoy our lives and be with our families and do all the things that we love to do. What aspects of Fireproof has allowed you to do that, and do you feel like you're almost there?
Yeah, so I definitely value freedom, and I think that's the whole point of owning a business. The business should work to support your lifestyle. And so for me, the aspect of Fireproof that's helped the most is delegation. So understanding, like we talked about earlier, what are the different roles that you're doing, and what could you do to find somebody who not only can do the job, but can actually do the job better than you can. So learning how to delegate effectively has given me a lot more freedom.
So we just wrapped up our summit. You can now hear the music playing during the podcast. Was there one major takeaway today that you're going to implement when you get back to the office Monday morning?
Yes. In fact, I just heard it, and it was implementing a system of doing ghost calls for my intake department. And so the idea is, on at least a monthly basis, have my director of intake ghost call the office, and then pretend to be a client, and then rate and actually score the intake person on different aspects. Their empathy, their response to objections, their attempts to close. There's a whole kind of spreadsheet, a rubric for doing that Alexa Levantis presented. So one of my action items is to leave this conference, email Alexa, get that scorecard, and then having my intake director start to implement that.
It's great advice. Can't spend too much time on intake, can you? Well, thank you for being on the new Fireproof podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for watching another episode of the Fireproof podcast. Please share this episode, like, subscribe, and let us know who else you'd like to see on this podcast. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon.